In this lecture, let's manipulate game objects in our scene. There are other tools available from the scene window. Below the View tool, we have another tool called Move. Let's select it. Next, we can select the cube to move it around. There are two options for selecting an object. The first option is to select the object from the hierarchy. By doing so, a gizmo appears at the center of the cube. Not all gizmos are exposed immediately. Some gizmos will appear after selecting a game object. Before exploring the gizmo, let's look at the second option of selecting an object. If I were to click in a random area, the gizmo would disappear because we've deselected the object. I can click on the cube to select it. This action causes the gizmo to reappear. Great! The Move tool gives us the power to move game objects. As you can see, we can move the objects in the 3D space by their X, Y, and Z axis. The green arrow represents the Y axis. The red arrow represents the X axis. Lastly, the blue arrow represents the Z axis. Clicking on any of the arrows causes the shape to move in their respective direction. We're not limited to moving a shape across a specific axis. We can move it on two axes at the same time. At the center of the gizmo, there are three boxes. The green box moves the object on the X and Z axis. The red box moves the object on the Y and Z axis. Lastly, the blue box moves the object on the X and Y axis. Let's move on to the next tool. Under the Move tool, we have the Rotation tool. As its name suggests, this tool can rotate a specific game object. Upon selecting this tool, 3 circles get wrapped around the game object. We can hold and drag the red circle to move the object on its X-axis. The blue circle moves the object on its Z-axis. Lastly, the green circle moves the object on its Y-axis. Moving along to the next tool, we have the Scale tool. The Scale tool can modify the size of an object. The gizmo is 3 lines with cubes attached to the ends of the lines. The green line resizes an object's Y scale. The red line resizes an object's X scale. Lastly, the blue line resizes an object's Z scale. In addition, we can resize all scales at once by clicking the center cube. This portion of the gizmo scales the object on all axes. The next tool is called the Rect tool. Unlike the other tools, this tool is designed for 2D objects. Unity can create 2D and 3D games. However, 3D games can contain 2D elements. For example, UI elements are created as 2D elements. It's completely possible to resize a 3D object with the Rect tool. However, the process can be confusing. In a future section, we will create UI elements for our game. The Rect tool will come in handy for this part of the course. For now, we can ignore it. Afterward, we have a tool called Transform. This tool combines the Move, Rotate, and Scale tools. Normally, I don't use this tool. While convenient, I prefer to tackle each aspect of a game object individually. However, this tool is at your disposal if you need it. There's one more tool called Edit Bounding Volume. This tool is not going to be useful in this course. We're not going to explore it since we don't need to edit the volume of our objects. There's one last thing I want to mention. We can switch tools with keyboard shortcuts. The Q key selects the View tool. The W key selects the Move tool. The E key selects the Rotation tool. The R key selects the Scale tool. The T key selects the Rect tool. Lastly, the Y key selects the Transform tool. Memorizing these keys will be useful. As I stated before, we're going to be moving around game objects a lot. Learning these shortcuts will make you a productive game developer. That's about it for the tools for manipulating game objects. They're very simple to use. Once again, I encourage you to play around with the tools. I think it's time for an exercise. In the next lecture, let's tackle an exercise to help you become familiar with these tools.